We do, we're a creative agency, and we do a little bit of a lot of different things.
Part of being creative is self-expression. It's like what comes out of my own brain. But if you're doing it with the thought of how do I encourage others or support others or build up others, then it can have a higher cause than just self-serving.
My name is Adam, and I grew up in Indiana and moved out here to Tacoma in 2012 and started out here as a high school Spanish teacher. Did that for about 6 years and then went back to school for design, joined Rotator after that, so I've been here for a year and a half or so.
I'm Kendon. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, up in kind of like Covington, Maple Valley area, but I've lived here since I think about the same time, 2012 or so, something like that, 8 or 9 years.
I'm Lance Kagi. Been doing Rotator for what? Have we been doing it for 4.5 years? Something like that. And besides doing this, I'm also a letterpress artist, which is working with old wood type and lead type on a hand crank printing press. So.
Can you guys tell me a little bit about the work that you do here at Rotator?
We do, we're a creative agency. We do design, of course, and creative strategy and branding for companies, as well as public art, as well as, sometimes corporate large strategy, and as well as small companies and logos and things like that too. We also do that.
Kind of look at creative thinking as a process of community building, and that could take the form of anything from creating a logo that a team can rally around, or creating inclusive and inviting public space through public art.
I think some of our favorite type of work is when the answer is not prescribed. Obviously, if a company is looking for something like a new brand, that's a pretty straightforward process, but sometimes they come to us and say, this is what we want to achieve, and it may be setting a certain tone or acquiring a certain perception among their audience, and they don't know exactly what that's going to require, whether it's a new logo, brand refresh, or something totally different. So those types of problems are really engaging for us.
So regarding each of your experiences, could you tell me a little bit about your personal and professional journeys and how you got to where you're at now?
I graduated from college in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in Spanish. Ended up pursuing teaching for 7 years. 6 of them here in Tacoma at Charles Wright Academy as a Spanish teacher. And several years into that, that little nugget, that seed that had been percolating over time about my interest with design really started to flourish. And so I started looking at opportunities to expand out of the teaching world into the design world. Spent a year there, landed an internship at Rotator, and that turned into...
I started at 18 as an intern at a church doing music and the creative side of it, of like trying to make the gym that we met in more interesting. And so that was really good for sharpening and teaching how to think outside the box, but within a box. And my favorite parts were always either a manager leading people or the creative aspects of actually teaching people. And then after that, I worked at Victrola Coffee in Seattle, doing a little bit of sales, a little bit of online marketing, a little bit of branding and marketing for the company, as well as barista training and things like that. I did a little bit of everything. Now I'm here with Rotator doing creative strategy, sometimes design, but a lot of times like creative strategy, facilitating the conversation, helping refine and come up with some of our ideas, or bringing those out of whoever we're working with or for. While I feel like sometimes I have that jack of all trades but master of none, it's also a little bit nice to kind of be a generalist in some ways.
I started down the creative field early on. Even when I was a kid, I was very interested in graphic design and other creative endeavors. After high school, I went to a liberal arts college as an art major, but went there for 3.5 years and then ran out of money. So I didn't get a degree back then. I actually ended up getting my final college degree just a few years ago when I finished my studies. But I've always been really persistent in pursuing those things that help me as a creative to grow. So that could be taking extra classes or working with other mentors and finding ways to express the passion I have for good design and creative thinking. And it's been great to kind of work with young talent that's just full of creative ability. And so that really helps me grow and stay fresh as I get older.
For me, the struggle has because I didn't go to school for anything that I've done, really. In my career, it's always kind of fighting with that. And only honestly, I'm 36, and I'm only honestly now finally starting to sort of be comfortable with just living in the, kind of feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but everybody kind of doesn't know what they're doing. It's also a weird, not having a set trajectory of what's supposed to happen can be a struggle. But I think if you can know that that is the reality, it's not weird. To not exactly know what you're going to do next, or you get fired from a job and feel like you're floundering and stepping off into the deep end somewhere. And so that's my personal struggle, and that's I think something that more people will see and be able to like recognize. Yeah, we all kind of do that. It's okay to not pretend like I know exactly what's coming next, because we don't.
I feel like the talent I have has been hard earned as opposed to just like naturally genius at creative. And so the hurdles are been more like fighting to be better and working harder to kind of, how do I get to where I want to be?
So from each of you guys' stories, like I hear Adam, you talk about transition points, and Kendi, you talk about uncertainty. Same with Lance, a bit of uncertainty. How would you recommend navigating those areas? Like I feel like for a lot of next move students, especially with you, Adam, you talk about transition points, and a lot of these students are coming up against like their very first one of moving out of like formal high school, I guess, and moving towards either college or whatever defined route that they have, or possibly an undefined route. So what would you guys say about, I feel like that very first step into, I'm in control now?
Just think about, it's not formulaic anymore. And so you have to be able to improvise. There's a good word. You gotta improvise. And recognize that, you may step into something and that may be great or not so great, but it's not permanent. There's opportunities to explore many different things in the era of the internet, where you can get on YouTube, find all kinds of tutorials, and pursue whatever passions or interests.
Like I said, I think figuring it out is the game. That's what like life is like figuring out as you go along. You can learn from where you've been, but you have to just decide where you go, and where you are choosing to go next should be your choice based on what you think is going to be best. And sometimes that requires like, okay, if I want to end up where I want to end up, I might need to go, take some classes, or like in Adam's case, to borrow Adam's story, you tell it, but left the school early that you were going to.
Yeah,
because
I'm
it was like
community college dropout. So it was a 2-year program, and I went back and I thought I could get paid doing this, as opposed to working just for grades. And it was such a great experience here that I took Lance out for coffee one day and asked him if I could come on full time. The rest is history.
I was smart enough to say yes. If you have the opportunity to go to college and learn in that setting, that can give you great opportunities for variable choices. It increases your ability to choose the direction you want to choose.
Right.
Confidence.
Definitely don't hear us saying you should all drop out or anything. But to Lance's point, like there's some excellent things, just even life skills that you learn by having to show up on time places and having to have other people in a group or whatever rely on you. Same thing for why it's always good for somebody to to work a job that you have to really work hard and build the like customer service muscle. That those are all good experiences that lead up to something. However, back to Adam's point, when it looks like it might be a good time to jump. You know, you don't necessarily have to stay in there. That's not a rule for everybody at all times, but like think in context of where you are and where you're wanting to be, because that was an excellent jumping off point.
Why is this work that you do here important to you specifically?
I think of it in terms of using design as a vehicle to make the human experience better. And that can be something as small and seemingly insignificant as a logo. It may just be the ticket to an organization, a sense of identity, a sense of understanding of who they are and what they strive for, and be able to communicate what it is they do to their audiences. But design can also be as big as helping solve some of the world's biggest problems. I appreciate design and try to approach it more holistically than just things that look nice, more than just visual design. But
I think that's really good. Your point about self-expression as opposed to service is really profound in the design world, because part of being creative is self-expression. It's like what comes out of my own brain. But if you're doing it with the thought of how do I encourage others or support others or build up others, then it can have a higher cause than just self-serving.
The empathy thing is a big deal. It's something that we try both explicitly and also implicitly, I guess, to be thinking about what does this need to do. It's not just does this logo look nice and is it in the colors that they like or whatever, but like what does it need to do? A quick example is one of our clients works with children who have special needs of various types. That can be motor skills and cognitive skills and social skills, things like that, like birth up to 3 years old. And we in our discovery process with them are not just going, well, what do you like, or what do you think, things, or what's your company about, whatever. Like we spent 2 hours with them just discovering how their process works, how are they helping people. So that really helps us inform how do we design it, help them rebrand and design a logo and everything else that goes around it, not just the logo. You start there, but build out everything around it to really help them come across in an empathetic way to the people that they help.
Being in Tacoma, I feel like it's very implicitly understood that it's a very unique city, and a lot of people who are here kind of feel it if you're here for any length of time. So exploring that, why is Tacoma important to you guys?
When you're part of Tacoma, there's more of a come on along kind of feel about it. Be part of what's going on. Where a lot of urban settings, I think, are more like you have to know the right people or do the right thing or be in the right circles to have any impact. Because Tacoma, I think, partly because it's the second city, it kind of has a opportunity to invite people to be part of it, and that's been a strong thing for me. That's drawn me into the community dialogue. Is that it's like, yeah, you want to do something? Come on, do it, as opposed to like, oh, we don't know if you're acceptable or not. So.
As opposed to a city like Seattle, Tacoma feels very malleable. What I mean by that is, if you want to do something, as they were saying, there's kind of an audience to cheer you on, and there aren't as many gatekeepers where you have to go through specific channels to reach a certain level of notoriety and have access to be able to do things, whether it's hanging up guerrilla art or hiding glasswork. Those kind of things just kind of pick up steam here and get embraced and becomes part of the culture.
What advice would you give to high schoolers who are interested in starting their careers or their education in graphic design or working as an artist?
In the world of design, I would say one of the best ways in Tacoma to dive into that is to reach out to others that you see or admire their work and say, hey, let's get a cup of coffee, or can I do an informational interview? This industry particularly is very much about how can I grow and learn from others. I think this is something that I know SOTA does is keep a ongoing sketchbook or some creative outlet that's consistently, you attack it consistently. You learn so much by the rhythm of doing. And I would say if I'm, say, interviewing a potential designer and they bring me a sketchbook that shows lots of thinking, even if it's messy, but it has a lot of kind of, oh yeah, I went down this rabbit hole and I did this and here's a sketch of a clown or whatever the thing is, right? It gives me a window into their creative process and helps me to see that they're committed to becoming a successful or well-crafted creative person. Mm-hmm. And so those types of things I think also help in that process as you're going in. It's that persistence of sticking with it.
Mm-hmm. You guys are that mentor that a lot of these younger students are looking for. So in that air, could you tell us a little bit about why you guys choose to host Next Move Interns?
It's a great program. And we love seeing. We just love seeing the growth, like Lance said, the creative process and seeing into other people's creative process. Everybody, just by connecting with other people, we learn from a high schooler just as much as they might learn from us. Just as far as like what is.
Take a picture of the inside of my pocket.
We'd much rather work with somebody, and even if we can't necessarily give them an assignment that gets onto the client, it's much more fun for us to work with them and take them along in our creative process as an agency. So we can see like the thing we were talking with empathy earlier, so they can see how that works, and then we see a fresh take on it that we wouldn't have being.
I would say the internship allows not only us to grow with seeing fresh ideas and that inquisitive learner kind of diving into what we do, but also gives us an opportunity to create momentum behind the future design community so that there are young designers coming up into the ranks that aren't just like, oh, I picked that because I like that color. They're thinking, and we can kind of introduce them to creative problem solving in a way that gives them a taste of it without it being too overwhelming.
What would you say to someone who's considering hosting an intern?
I would say if you have the capacity, absolutely do it. Like we've talked about and mentioned before, it's mutual. It's not just us getting work out of them, but we're also helping them discover what that path might look like, what that type of work could look like. And so it's mutually beneficial.
If you're a company thinking about bringing on an intern, whatever your industry is, try to make it a great, like you're investing in somebody else, not using them for coffee. I mean, if you need to, then go for it. But
a coffee company.
Yeah, unless you're a coffee company, yeah. Because you get the opportunity to invest in and also learn from somebody who's in the next generation who will be here after we are not.
And as much as possible to try to give them a diverse range of type of work. We wouldn't want them to have to do the same thing, even if it's an interesting thing over and over again. We want to make the most of the time that they're here, as short as it is, to really dabble in as much as possible and to be proactive about what kind of work you are assigning to them.
I thought of various jobs that I might choose kind of two-dimensionally. It's like, oh, I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to have a studio and paint all day or whatever the thing was, right? But I think as you get into various industries or just life experience, you start to realize that, oh, I could work for a financial firm as an art director to help them tell their story, which is like, wait, that doesn't fit the two-dimensional mold, So an internship allows that a person to kind of see, oh, it's not just about decorating a page. It's not about this kind of their narrow perception of what the industry is.
You know, when you guys describe your community and also your beliefs around interns, it really sounds like kind of common sense that you guys would host interns. I feel like with your direction as professionals, it's rather conducive to having an intern and kind of supporting that community and just building a mutualistic community. So
It's been great talking with you.
Yeah.
you as well. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
You.